Okay, welcome students as you begin to prepare for Unit 9, Quiz B. These are all the skills you need to know. They do include most, if not all, of the skills from Unit 8, right? So Unit 9 is building on Unit 8. All right, so we're going to go through all of the tasks and we're going to do one example from each task. As I outlined to you in the previous videos, make sure when I put the problem on the screen, you pause the video, you try the problem, and then when you're done, let the video run to see where your mistakes were or when you got stuck to see how you need to go further. Okay, let's talk about task 1. Find the slope of a line perpendicular to another line. All right, so let's go to slide 1 and we'll do that. Okay, so that little symbol there we won't be using on the quizzes, but just so you know, that means perpendicular. So find the slope of a line that's perpendicular to y equals 2x minus 1. Now, very important to notice what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the slope. I'm not looking for the equation of a line, which we will do sometimes as well. Just the slope. Okay, the slope is the number right in front of the x. If you don't see anything there, right, then that means it's a 1, right? But we see a 2, so we know that the slope is 2. Okay, of this line, the slope of this line, m equals 2. The slope equals 2. But we want to find the slope of a line that's perpendicular to this line. So everybody knows, we've gone over this, it's in the notes, that a perpendicular line has a negative reciprocal slope. I'm going to write that because it's so important. Negative, which just means the opposite sign, and reciprocal, which simply means flip, right? Okay, so we have 2 over 1, but we need to flip that and change the sign. In other words, negative. So reciprocal part is this. Reciprocal is this. And then the negative part just means change the sign to be the opposite of whatever it is. So this was positive 2. So now it's negative 1/2. So the answer to our problem is the slope of that perpendicular line is negative 1/2. All right, let's go to skill number 2. Find the equation of a line passing through the point and is perpendicular to this. So we've already done the first part. Okay, again, don't forget to pause the video and try this problem yourself. Okay, now assuming you've tried the problem, here's the solution. We've already done the slope, so we already know that the slope, that's the same problem as before, is negative 1/2. That's the negative reciprocal of this slope. Now, a big mistake students make is they think they're going to use the b from the original line. We're not going to, right? We're not going to use that. We don't need to use that because two lines that are different lines usually don't have the same y-intercept. Okay? They could, but it's very rare. But we're not going to use this b at all from the original line. We only steal the slope from the original line, and that we've already taken care of. So step 1 is to get the negative reciprocal slope. Step 2, and I'm just following the printed guidelines that I've shared with my students, or you maybe have gotten shared on a PDF from your teachers. Okay, a little linear guide that we sent out. And also the notes. If you go to 91-notes at the end of the note pack, there's a step-by-step. So I'm just following the step-by-step, right? That was step 2 to find the negative reciprocal slope. Step 3 is to write y equals mx plus b and fill in each letter that you know so that we can solve for b. So I'm going to fill in a number for y. I'm going to fill in the slope that we just found, an x, and I'm going to leave b alone. So the y value from the point that it's going through is 2. The x value from the point it's going through is negative 1, right? Notice where I'm putting everything. That's the x value. That's the y value. And the slope is, of course, the slope that we just found, negative 1/2. Notice it's not 2 because I didn't ask for a parallel line, and we're certainly not doing the same line. They said a perpendicular. And again, this symbol will not be on the quiz, but it means perpendicular, okay? So I'm looking for a line perpendicular to this line. Well, that's going to have a negative 1/2 slope. So once you plug the point in and the new slope, you solve for b, okay? So 2 equals 1/2, right? Negative times negative is positive. 1/2 times 1 is 1/2 plus b. We're going to subtract 1/2 from both sides, and we're going to get 1.5, but we don't like, right? We don't like mixed fractions like this, right? We'll do this at first, right? So it's 1.5. But we're going to do 1 times 2 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So we like improper fractions. It's better. Okay, and that's not the y-intercept, don't forget. That is the y value of the y-intercept. The y-intercept, of course, if anybody asks us, which they didn't, is, right, 0, comma 3 over 2. Okay, but we don't need that. We just need the b. And all we're going to do is plug the b back into here, right, because we just solved for it, okay? And don't forget, we know the m, right? The m we already know. And the b, the yellow, is what we have here. So the final equation of the line is going to be y equals, because there's always a y and an x, right? And then the slope, so that's negative 1/2. The x, of course, and the plus 3 over 2. Okay, now, this is fine, but we usually condense this. So we actually consider x to be x over 1, see? And then I multiply these two fractions. And what I get is, you'll see me write the slope like this a lot. Negative x over 2. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So this is a much more compact way to write the answer. And we're probably going to give you problems that look like this more often than not. So that is a slope of negative 1/2, even though you don't see the 1 there, right? It's understood to be there in front of x. So that's a slope of negative 1/2. And a b value, which is the y value of the y-intercept, is 3/2. Okay, let's go to the next skill. Find the slope of a line parallel to y equals 2x minus 1. Again, this is the parallel symbol. We'll be writing the word parallel, but it's good to know this symbol going forward. We use it a lot in geometry, for example. Okay, so if you follow the steps in the packet, we know that we take this, just like before, we take the slope from the original. There it is, 2. We then keep it. We don't do a negative reciprocal like we did in the other problem because this is parallel, not perpendicular. You see, if you think of two parallel lines, I'm just randomly writing two parallel lines like this, right? If you think of two parallel lines, they both go up and down at the same rate. In other words, they rise and run over the same rate. See? So they're parallel. Parallel lines have the same slope. If this slope is 2, it's a little too shallow for 2, but if it was 2, then this slope would be 2. If this slope is 1, this slope would be 1. Parallel lines have the same slope. So I already have a big head start on my new line because I know the slope is 2, right? I know the slope is 2. Now I have to just solve for b. Remember, I'm not using the b from the original problem. So just like before, except I didn't have to do the negative reciprocal, I plug in a point. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I went a little too far. This is the answer. They're asking for the slope. Remember I said to read carefully, and Mr. Campbell didn't. So this is a great lesson for you, right? It said find the slope, not the equation of the line. If we had to find the equation of the line, we would do this, right? But it just said find the slope. So we were actually done at m equals 2. That's like a 2-second problem. We're going to do this in the next slide, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Yep, that's what we're going to do, okay? So what I started to do here is really the work we're going to do here. So we know the slope is 2, because that's what we did in the previous slide. And then we're going to do what I was doing in the slide, which is fill it in, okay? Remember what I'm doing. I'm doing y equals, right? This is y. I'll put it little here. Y equals mx, right, plus b. So we're basically filling in everything we know. Of course, this is 2 because it's parallel. And we're going to plug in 2 for y and negative 1 for x, right? Negative 1 for x goes here. Okay, the 2 goes over here. And the slope is 2, too, coincidentally. Okay, so basically, if I drop the parentheses here, I get this, right? If I multiply negative 1 times 2, I get negative 2. Add 2 to both sides, I get b equals 4. All right, b equals 4 is the y value of the y-intercept. So my final equation, the last step if you look at your instructions, is to rewrite everything with the slope, I just did, leave the y and x, and of course add the b, which was 4. So that is the final answer to my question. Notice it does not have the same y-intercept as the original line, right? Parallel lines aren't going to have the same y-intercept. Okay. Next skill is find the x-intercept. So we know if we think about a graph like this and somebody says, what's the x-intercept? It's where the line, I'm just going to make up a random line here. It's where the line hits the x-axis, see, right here. And now that's not this line, right? But, well, actually it's pretty close to it, but I mean, I'm just drawing a random line here. But I already know that at every time someone asks for an x-intercept, it's going to be what? A number, right? I'm going to make up a number here, which is not the same answer for our problem. And a 0 for y, right? Any point on this line, any point here, any x-intercept. So here's a different line going through the x-axis, right? That point is going to have a y value of 0, okay? The x value will be negative 2 or negative 1 or whatever. So when I want to find the x-intercept, I know one thing. I know that the y value, right, x comma y, the y value is always 0. So we're going to replace y with 0. Again, I hope you pause the video and try this on your own. Okay, if not, do it now. And then when you're done, unpause the video and watch my solution, right? Okay, hopefully that's routine for everybody now. Okay, so now we have to solve for x, right? So, because we know the y value, we just need to know what the x value is here, see? So we're going to add 1 to both sides. And then we're going to divide by 2 on both sides. And basically I get x equals 1/2. Okay, I already know the y value because all x-intercepts have a 0 y value. All you need to do is put the number you just found for x into here, and that's the x-intercept, okay? I'm going to abbreviate intercept, right? But intercept is a full word, right? X-intercept. So x-int for intercept is 1/2 comma 0. Okay, next skill. Find the equation of a line passing through this point and is perpendicular to y equals 3. Okay, now we need to recognize, and I've told this to my students, I'm sure the other students have heard this too, we need to recognize 2 things right away. Anytime I have this kind of line, and anytime I have a line, for example, I'm just a different example here, like this. Okay? The yellow is a horizontal line. You just have to memorize it. Y equals a number is a horizontal line. And the x equals a number is a vertical line. Okay? So for these problems, the best thing to do, and sometimes I give you a graph on the quiz, sometimes not, doesn't matter. So all you have to do is sketch this to think about it, okay? There's an even easier way to do it. For those of you who've done these enough and practiced a lot, you probably know just to look at the point, you're done. But just to teach you why that works, right? I need to draw the original line. Here's the original line, right? 1, 2, 3, okay? So the original line, y equals 3, looks like this, right? All the y values are 3, okay? That's y equals 3. And I know that my new line has to pass through the point -1, 2. So I'm going to go -1, right? That's -1, 2 is right here. Okay. Now there's an infinite number of lines that pass through that point, right? That line passed through the point, that line. There's a million lines, an infinite number of lines that pass through that point. But only one line is perpendicular. Again, there's that symbol, which you won't have to memorize, but that's perpendicular, okay? So there's only one line that is perpendicular to y equals 3 and hits this purple dot. Now, see, this line over here is perpendicular, the vertical line, to y equals 3, but it doesn't go through that dot. This line over here, this line over here, they're all perpendicular to y equals 3, but they don't go through that point. There's only one that does, and of course, it's the line that goes vertically right through that point. Okay? And I just buried my -1 here, but you get the idea. So what are all the x values of vertical lines? Because remember, vertical lines look like this, right? Vertical lines look like that. So what are all the x values along this line? They're all -1, right? This is -1, 3. This is -1, 2, -1, 1, -1, 0, -1, -1. These are all x values of -1, right? So that's the answer. So I actually didn't mean to give you the answer too early here. Sorry about that. It was just pure luck, but it worked out. But the answer is x equals -1. So the quick way to do this is, if it's perpendicular to a y equals, then it has to be an x equals. If it's parallel to a y equals, if it's parallel to a y equals, then it's going to be y equals, okay? And then you just take the numbers from here, see? So that's what we did. So we knew it's perpendicular to y equals, so it's an x equals, and we know it's an x equals -1 because that's the x value of the point that it passes through. So you can draw this graph every time if it helps you, or you can just memorize that little trick and you're done. Okay, next skill. Find the equation of a line passing through the point -1, 2 and is perpendicular to x equals 1. Okay, so same thing I'm going to do again. Again, there's a much quicker way to do this, but this works out perfectly and it helps you understand it better. So x equals 1 is this line here, right? X equals 1. It's a vertical line passing through this point here. Okay, and there's a point -1, 2. In fact, it's the same point we had before. Okay, there's -1, 2, right? -1, 2. And you want to find a line that's perpendicular to a vertical line. Well, what's perpendicular to a vertical line? Horizontal lines. Now, there's an infinite number of horizontal lines that go through this, right? Go through the screen here. There's a million of them, right? But I want the only one there's only one that passes through that purple dot. So that's the line. Now, how do you name that line? Well, it's horizontal, so I know it's y equals. And then all I got to do is look at what the y values are along this line, and they're all 2, right? They're all 2. So it's y equals 2. Very simple. You just got to memorize, right? What vertical and horizontal means, and of course, what perpendicular and parallel means. Okay, next problem. Again, try this problem on your own, pause the video, and then when you're done, let the video run. Okay. I think the skill is, are they parallel, yeah, because I didn't copy that down. So this is, are they parallel, right? Perpendicular. Or neither, right? Or neither. Okay, it's basically what they're saying is, are there two lines that are parallel like this, or are they perpendicular like this, right? They had a right angle, or they're just neither, like they're just kind of like an X or something, right? So parallel, perpendicular, neither. Okay, very simple. We just look at the first line and we say, okay, y equals 2x. That means it has a slope of 2. So if the next line, which is over here, if this was a parallel line, it would also have a slope of 2. It doesn't. If it was perpendicular, it would have a negative reciprocal slope, which means 2 over 1 switches to 1/2, and of course negative. And it doesn't. This has -1, not -1/2. So because it has a different slope and it's not a negative reciprocal slope, then the answer is neither. Okay, find the given equation, find the equation of the line, given f of 2 equals -1 and f of 4 equals 3. So this is a nice mixture of some old skills, which is function notation, right? So what this means, right, is x is 2, y is -1. Actually, it's f is -1, okay? But f is in the y position. So it's really x and f, but we call it x and y for our simplicity, right? And then this one, same thing. So the x value, right, f of x, because function notation looks like this, f of x or g of x or h of x, right, equals whatever. So 3x plus 7 or something. I'm just making up a number here, okay? So they're telling you that f of 4, that's the x value is 4. So when x is 4, then the y value equals 3. Again, I just made this up, so we're ignoring this, okay? But basically what I'm saying is the 4 is the x, and the 3 is the y, okay? And we call it x2, y2. Why? Because it's my second point. I could have made this my second point. Okay, and then you know the formula, right? So it's the slope is equal to y2. This is also on your chart that I gave you, x2 minus x1. Please don't put squares like a lot of you try to do. These are subscripts. Means it goes below the letter. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it's 3 minus, and we like to use parentheses here so we don't miss double negatives, right? So we're going to use parentheses here. Okay, so I'm just building the whole thing. I'm just rewriting this, equals this, y2, this is y2, okay, minus y1, y1 is -1. And then, of course, x2 and minus x1. So x2 is 4, minus x1 is 2. Okay, and this is 3 minus -1, so it's 4. And this is 4 minus 2 is 2. So our slope is 2. Now, that's just the slope, but you know what we do. We do it every time. We've done it so many times. When we know the slope, but we don't know b, we do the same thing every time. We fill in the 3 things we do know, and we solve for b. So we know the slope is 2. We just found that, right? M, if you look at the beginning and the end here, m is equal to 2. So we know the slope is 2. And we know actually 2 points, so I can use either one. I'm going to use this one here, but I didn't have to. I could certainly use this point. They both work. So I'm going to put -1 in for y and 2 in for x. And then we're going to solve for b. Add and subtract 4 from both sides, and we get b equals -5. This is such an excellent way to learn because you can rewind, right? You can watch this again, watch the whole video again, or you can watch just problem 10, right? Page 10, or problem 9, actually it is. And just watch it again and try it again. And you can pause the video and do the problem yourself and then watch me do it, okay? So final answer is, of course, 2x, because they want the equation of a line, right? So it's 2x minus 5. The 2 is the slope that we found first, and then this b that we just solved for is minus 5. We put that there, so that's my answer. Okay, I'm just underlining the 2. Of course, that's not part of the answer, so don't panic there. Okay, x-intercept is negative 2, 0, and the slope is 1/2. Find the equation of the line. So this is a really hard problem. This would be a C problem, right? So we know the slope is 1/2, so I'm actually going to write what I know. So I know 1/2 x plus b. Okay? Now, it says the x-intercept is negative 2, 0, but actually it almost doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter because it's a point, right? That's a point on the line. As long as I have a point, I do what I always do. So it actually isn't that difficult of a problem. It's just hard to think about. The x-intercept is negative 2, 0. I don't care if it's the y-intercept. I don't care what it is. It's still a point. This is a point on the line. If I know a slope and I know a point, I do what I always do. I plug them in. So I already put the slope in, right? Slope's already there. So I'm going to plug in 0 for y and negative 2 for x. Okay, so I get 0 equals negative 2 times 1/2 is negative 1. Add 1 to both sides, I get b equals 1. So my final answer, of course, is the slope and the b plugged in. So y equals 1/2 x. They told us that slope, and then plus 1 for b. That's the answer. Graph these two in Desmos. So I'm not going to go over that in this lesson here, really. I'm really trying to teach you all the different skills. All you got to do in Desmos, and I'm sure you've done it, is you go in, you type in this, and then you type this in, and you can see the graphs. Okay, so I'm going to leave that out of the video. And I think there's one more. Create a table of values and graph the function based on this equation. Okay? All right. So what I'm going to do is plug in numbers for x. And this got moved a little bit, so I was going to fix this. Sorry, this should have been over here. Okay, so something squared minus something, just ignore the screen, plus 3. So I want to pick values. I usually pick these 5 values, okay? But I may have to adjust. If this isn't lined up near the center and I want some more points, I may add a third one, another one here. But usually these 5 take care of the work for me. So I'm going to put negative 2. This is rather small, so I'm actually going to rewrite it. Okay, it's rather small, so I'm just going to rewrite it. Okay. All I'm doing is, I'm writing this equation here, but I'm taking the x's out and putting parentheses in. Okay, and then I'm going to do one at a time. So I'm going to put negative 2 in. So I'll put negative 2 in. Okay, negative 2 squared is 4. So this is negative 4. Minus 2 is plus 2, plus 3, right? So minus 4 plus 3. So plus 5 is 1, right? So 1. Okay, then I'm just going to erase everything that I did. I didn't want to erase the parentheses, but that's okay. And I'm going to plug in negative 1 to both my x's, right? There's 2 x's here. Okay, negative 1 squared is positive 1 times negative 1 is negative 1 minus negative 1 is plus 1, double negative, and then plus 3. So it's 3. 0 we can do in our head because if it's 0, this is 0, this is 0. It's just 3. You see, that's a real easy one. Okay, plug in 1, also pretty easy. So I just put in positive 1, right? I'm going to get negative 1, because 1 squared is 1 times negative 1, minus 1 plus 3. Okay, so that's negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1. Okay, and we're going to put in 2. Okay, 4, negative 4, minus 2, negative 6, plus 3, right? Negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I usually try to do 5. Let's plot all these points. So negative 2, 1. Oops, I messed up, sorry. So negative 2, 2 left, up 1, negative 2, 1. Negative 1, 3. 0, 3, 0, 3. And 1, 1. And 2, negative 3, right? So 2, negative 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's close enough. We don't have to be too crazy. Basically what happens is you're getting an upside down parabola, okay? That looks something like this. Now there's a vertex up here I didn't find, okay? Because I didn't find a point between, but it does, parabolas go up in between these 2 points. So it's going to be a little higher than that, maybe like up here, something like that. But that's good enough because we're just trying to get a rough sketch, and that's all we need to do. Just plugging in x values, getting out y values, then plotting those points. Okay, I think that's, oh, no, there's one more. So this one was blank, but this one, does the point, yeah, this is a good one. So does the point 1, comma 3 lie on the line y equals negative x plus 4? Remember, this formula tells you all the possible combinations of x and y, right? So if a point is on this line, it would make this statement true. So let's try that. Let's put a 3 over here, of course, and then equals negative, right? Negative, that's -1, but we can leave it as negative, right? And then x is 1 plus 4, okay? Does the point 1, 3 lie on the line? 3 equals -1 plus 4. Therefore, 3 equals 3. And that means, because I got a truth here, that means that that point does lie on the line. If you tried 1, comma 2, and you plug it in, you'll find it doesn't. You'll get two different numbers here, right? You won't be able to put a check mark that it's equal. You'll get like, 5 equals 3, or 1 equals 3, or 7 equals 4. You'll get some untruth, right? You'll get something that doesn't look like this. And when that happens, that means that that point is not on the line. But this point is, so I'm good. So the answer is yes. And I think that's our last scale. Okay? So again, I hope you're doing all the things we talked about. I hope you watched this video and paused it and then did the problems and then checked your work. And that's a great way to go over all the skills. Of course, practice all of your other review sheets. And best of luck on Quiz B. Thanks, guys.